I'm going to present the results and focus mostly on some results from this big project, because Karin presenting, Wolfgang presenting, Martin will also present. It is a big project which is done in collaboration with several institutions. We test products from Syngenta, ICL, Aquahild, Suståne. I will tell first about the trials on alternative products on microdochium which were done at Landvik. Experiments were done on two fields, one with 10% sphagnum peat and another with 12. We had 16 treatments. That is why it was divided into two fields. The experiments were done on green with annual bluegrass with creeping banggrass. I will just jump over the results due to time, so to get time to present all. What we could see that control treatments, it was up to 300 kilograms nitrogen per hectare per year. We saw a reduction in 37% when we reduced nitrogen with about 27%. We could see reduction about 35% on average for replicates in Suståne. It is a slow release fertilization, and we could see a reduction in it was about 32% in microdochium when we used ICL program. Since it were many treatments, we divided into groups. So fungicide treatment, as expected, had good control, but we also had reduced fungicide. We applied the Laro as systemic and medallion is contact. With 40% reduction, we get good control, but we also get the same good control with use of nanoproteins, editing to fungicide to improve its effect. I'm not able. The reason why we used the nanopro, we had an earlier research at Landvik when we tested systemic and contact fungicides with reduction with 30 and 60% with nanopro. And what we could see then that nanopro improved fungicide effect both with at 30% reduction, so it was used 70% of fungicide dose. But when the dose was reduced down to 40%, we could see that nanopro improved when both fungicides were used in combination. The parallel trial with Landvik was conducted at STRI. Unfortunately, Christian couldn't come here, so I will present the results. They tested the same, so we had fungicide treatments, and you can see that the first year STRI they had high disease pressure up to 12%. The second year lower. All fungicides of course had good control, but nanopro they actually did not improve the fungicide effect. Acidification treatments, I didn't show results from the Landvik because neither we had iron sulfate and citric acid. None of the treatments had effect on microdochium at Landvik, but at STRI, the first year, But I can just say that iron sulfate, it is green lines. You can see that reduction in microdochium in the first year, and even the second year when it was lower disease pressure, they could also see a good effect of iron sulfate. The effect of citric acid was non-consistent, and we use citric acid because of some Danish greenkeeper tried to use citric acid against microdochium, so we wanted to try. And citric acid was applied in treatment 7 from August to November, or from June to November. So the first year it was effect of citric acid at steroid, but it was some reduction here. I'm not able to use this, but you can see the blue line, but it was inconsistent with citric acid. As for nutrient treatments and STRI, the reduced dose of nitrogen actually improved resistance to microdochium, not resistant, but it was less microdochium on the field. But in the second year, it was actually opposite effect. You can see it is the it was for reduced nitrogen, yellow line. It was for reduced nitrogen, so it was the same results as at Landvik the first year, but the second year reduced nitrogen, yellow line. It was more microdochium on control treatment, but late autumn fertilization didn't have effect in both years. It was very close to control. Why we used late autumn fertilization? Because when we ran this survey in 14-15, we found out that some greenkeepers, they finish fertilization in August, some in September, but like up to 50% of golf courses both in Norway and Sweden who participated in survey, they fertilized until the frost come. That is, and we had earlier project on late autumn fertilization. Here you can we had it was green with annual bluegrass and creeping banggrass. It is in Norwegian. I'm sorry I didn't change. And during the season the green was fertilized the same, but during the autumn time, it was in October and to the middle of November, it was applied nitrogen in the low, normal and high level. And in spite of the fact that it was very low disease pressure that year, it was in 2015, it is spring, it was clearly that the high nitrogen level at the last in creeping banggrass, but also in annual bluegrass, we get more microdochium patch. In when we used lower, like spoon feeding in the autumn, it was not different from control, but the greens in the spring were greener and had better recovery from winter damage. And just to show what kind of environmental consequences has autumn fertilization was leaching 4, 20 and 43% corresponding to low, medium and high nitrogen, corresponding to the how many nitrogen was applied. But no of these leachate exceed a nitrogen limit for drinking water. And also just to show it is not, but the freezing survival also important for grass survival. You can see orange soils, it is poor annual and agrostolonifera, it is the same study. But what we could see that when we applied the higher nitrogen in the autumn, freezing tolerance in creeping banggrass was reduced. but it was not reduced in annual bluegrass. But it is because of annual bluegrass is not hardy species at all. It not able to acclimate. And what is important for also for survival and also for microdochium, I wanted just to show that acclimation can improve resistance of to microdochium. And for example, unhardened plant, you can see plots of with velvet bentgrass cultivars. They were not resistant to microdochium at all as unhardened, but R4, it was creeping bentgrass, it was resistant. But when the plants were hardened, they were resistant all. And the second trial, which was conducted at Landvik as a part of this IPM project, we tested Syngenta biostimulants, which is based on 3 amino acids, high cure. It was controlled treatment, and in treatment 2 we applied fungicides 2 systemic and 1 contact. And high cure was applied from the middle of August, and with in treatment 3 it was 1 reduction of fungicide. In treatment 4 it was applied only medallion. And what we could see, this trial was also conducted both at Landvik and Bingley, STRI. At STRI, all treatment followed to less microdochium. So in conclusion, it can be recommended to use high cure, and it can be a fungicide reduction. But at Landvik, only a treatment number 3 had effect. So we could reduce fungicide applications from 3 to 2. But not to 1 as at Bingley. Bingley did also dollar spot trial on red fescue green with 7 treatments with untreated control, no nitrogen, with low nitrogen, NCO and NPCO 137, and it was 2 Suståne treatments and ICL program. And here is the results. If you can see in the second year, the highest dollar spot pressure was on the plots which did not receive any nutrients and which received the highest nutrient. It was, and all other treatments, they reduced microdochium. And the best results was from ICL program, but it was a combination of several products. And it is my last slide. It is also from an early project, and I just wanted to show which challenging we have when we have both dollar spot and microdochium patch on the same green. In this trial on golf course Kävlinge Golf Club, it was applied when you had low nitrogen. With increasing nitrogen, they get less dollar spot. But the spring after, it was much more microdochium patch on this green. So the prevent these 2 diseases on the same green, it is pretty difficult. It is not my. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. And,
there is time for 1 or 2 short questions. Yes.
A quick question, especially on the trials versus microdochium patch. Why do you implement such a high nitrogen input program? Because those inputs are just alien to me.
Pardon?
Your nitrogen input of going up to 200 kilograms of nitrogen in a trial that's looking at reducing microdochium.
Yes, but it was too much annual bluegrass on this green. So it was, but it was in summertime.
But that's in a climate that doesn't even have an 8-month growing season. whereas the majority of greenkeepers in the countries that I cover are implementing lower than that, even a 12-month growing season.
I agree that it was probably too high, but even in lower nitrogen rates, we also see the same problem.
But when I've done trials at low end, they're implementing 40 kilograms of nitrogen. 40 is a lot lower than...
Yeah, so it probably just when we say, we should not say lower. Yes, I understand.
Lower.
Yes. Thank you.
It's also due to the anthracnose, which was a big problem in the same green, I guess.
The balance, yeah.
Okay. So the next speaker is Martin Nilsson from Copenhagen GOLF Club. You will talk about using rolling as a tool to reduce the severity of microdochium patch on greens.
Let's get it. Both. Okay, both? Yeah. Hello, hello. Whoa. There you go.
So, ready, Martin?
I am. Thank you. And you can all hear me loud and clear? I just need to figure out moving back and forth with it. Thank you everyone for inviting me to come to this event. I'm really happy to be invited, and I'm maybe also, I think the organizers are happy that I'm here, because you already included me in the program, the final program, before you sent out the invite. So we had a... And to me it was fun, Maria, because you are so well organized and perfect every time. So just having a little flaw in that picture. Yeah. No, you're going to Denmark now. A little project with rolling in order to control the microdochium patch on our greens. And then I need to use this one. So just a little background. This golf course has been pesticide-free since 2011. I started greenkeeping there as course manager, head greenkeeper in 2006, and we could apply to the forest authority, who are the ones who are taking care of us, if we could apply a fungicide if we have an attack during winter. The products we had available at that time was very poor. So in the end, when we came to 2011 and the sward composition was improving, there wasn't really need for any fungicide applications anymore. So we took it away, because it was just for PR purposes. It was much better to be clean. Herbicides, I don't know, I don't have any records. Maybe 20-25 years ago we have applied a herbicide. Insecticides have never been applied, and growth regulators has just been invented in Denmark a couple of years ago, so that has not been a thing for us. When we started rolling, every greenkeeper now, I guess, is rolling. Some are rolling a lot, and some are rolling a little bit less. Is the sound good? Yeah, you look a little bit. So now, Henrik, you're fine. Yeah, but that was for having a better presentation and better performance in the fall. We stepped down on mowing our greens in October. Actually, middle of October, we said, that's enough. If we cut the grass at this stage, maybe the fungi has an easier way in. So the greens sort of got more bumpy at this stage. So if we start rolling, we will have a better performance in October, November, maybe December, if the weather was good enough. And then little by little, I was reading articles, and I read an article about how, I think it was Beth Page in New York, who could see that the reduction in dollar spot attacks on their fairways, 30%, I think it was, if they were rolling their fairways, and say, okay, maybe I can both have good performance, presentation, but also sort of fighting off my fusarium, my microdochium patch. So that was how we started. And then, yeah, better rollers. In the beginning, it was these units you put on a triplex. That wasn't easy, or you're lazy as a greenkeeper sometimes. But suddenly you could buy sort of a dedicated rollers, and we did that in 2008. and we have been happy with these ones ever since. So moving over to the site where we had this little trial, that's a green on our par 3 short game course. It's around 15 years old. It's native soil. All greens in Copenhagen are native soils. They're nearly 100 years now. But we built this one ourselves and applied 5 centimeters of topsoil on top. In Denmark, it's very normal that you use sand and compost together. A very good combination. We can't afford biochar or any fancy stuff, but good Danish compost we use. The composition of the sward is fescue, brown top bends, poa, and then some plantains and clover, just to give some sort of a natural thing to it. It's a muddy site. It gets a lot of traffic, not from players, but from deer. The most special place about my working place is not that we are pesticide free. It's because we have more than 2,000 permanent residents, which are deer running around on the golf course. So this is a busy site, this par 3 golf course. And it's a good site, Karin, when you approached me, can we do a rolling project here? Because I always get disease on this site, because it's a stepchild. It's the last place we do proper greenkeeping. We always skip things. So disease are present summer and winter. So it's a good site to see if everything good can happen. So the experimental design, we conducted this in 2020 and 21. We had some parcels where we didn't roll, then 2 times, and then 4 times a week. And we had a long period of 5 months and a shorter one for 3 months. And there were 3 repetitions across the parcels. And the result from the first year, we start seeing disease attacks in December. Normally in Denmark, if we get frost in September, we can have disease attacks from Fusarium in September, then again in October, in November. At my place, when we see it, it might be in December, January now. What we could also see was that there were less disease where we rolled. This brochure is actually really good at explaining what we did. The results obviously are better in this marketing publication. I think we got 57% reduction. Not as good as Stefan, but we all know that in Sweden everything is better and, and more beautiful. You got 95%, Stefan. 57. I got 5 in my test. I don't know, but we can normally see that it's helping. And there was a better visual quality with the rolling. And good for me, I'm a lazy greenkeeper. 5 months of rolling is not saving you better than 3 months of rolling. So we start in August if it's only for disease suppression. And then also, especially in this year, you could see that if you're rolling 4 times a week, the turf is suffering in the end. It gets thin on the edges. And then when we moved to 21, it was a soft, mild year. We didn't see that many attacks, actually none. We had snow and frost in the winter. That doesn't really for Norwegians or the rest of the Nordic countries, but that maybe is 2, 3, 5 centimeters of snow and -5 degrees. And there wasn't really any difference in turf quality when we were rolling 2 or 4 times a week. But we still saw that the plots we rolled were looking better, which is also important. A big thing for this year was that we changed the roller. Our old roller that only had 2 rollers, we bought a new one with 3, and you could really see how much more gentle it was to the turf. So if anybody you are looking for a new roller unit, go for the wider ones instead of the smaller ones. Don't buy one tomorrow. Be sustainable, keep it, spend it, and when you have your reinvestment, buy a bigger one. Thank you. So the conclusions, 2 times a week from August helps you. And as this is a a scientific event, you have to be very precise. This is on a Scandinavian red fescue dominated golf greens. So if it's a poor annual green, maybe the results doesn't really apply. So the field trial confirms our own findings. I find that comforting. It's a very important part of our IPM. If you saw Tatsiana's triangle, we don't have a top of the iceberg. We don't use any plant protection products at my place. We have to do better with the rest. We try to roll as much as possible vis-a-vis mowing. It's still difficult, but on a normal basis we roll 3 to 4 times a week. We even have weekends now where we can just roll them because they still give the same greens performance during summer, so you can skip a mow on the weekends. We try to roll as long into the winter as possible, but normally it's not the green that is the issue when winter comes. It's getting to the green, because access, fairways, semi-rough, all the driving up to the green is difficult. And you need firm and dry greens. You need to have all the fundamentals ready. Good drainage. As a control of your organic matter, your thatch, and a good top dressing regime, and maybe the right grasses. I don't know if poor annual likes rolling as much as fescue. So that's one of the important things you have to bring with you. This is a thank you, but I still have 5 minutes left, Maria. No. Because when you see this presentation where you both see practical knowledge, research, and communication with colleagues, I think that really is what I feel about greenkeeping, and I feel really, really strong about turfgrass research. When I started greenkeeping in the early 2000s, turf was also little by little taking off. You and Bruno, the federations found together and start spending money on this. And that has been critical to my greenkeeping, working in this environment without any pesticides, that I could rely on all the good results that you were finding. We could also communicate together, use you as speakers in our greenkeeper conferences, and also just giving something back to you so you could develop your research projects. And it's also an educational thing, bringing in turfgrass research into our greenkeeper schools, and also communication to golfers, but also in between greenkeepers. And for many years ago, actually now, in 2019, I have a job, a spare time job as vice president in the European Greenkeeper Association. We were listening to our members, and they say, whenever there was a presentation from staff, it could be Stefan, Maria, Tatsiana, you have also, Karen, you have been there, Trygve, you have been there. They say, I wish we had the same in our country. We need turfgrass research. We need to get better. And we say, okay, let's listen to our customers. Let's ask the federations in Europe to form copies of turf in Central Europe and in Southern Europe. Maybe also the UK would come along at one stage. It really didn't take off. We had a pandemic. But I think the agenda that the EU has presented to us now makes it really, really clear that we have to go home and say to our federations, our golfers, that if we want to stay with the same quality as we have, maybe even better in the future, and if we're going to take care of our golf courses with less pesticides, maybe zero, we need new solutions to these new problems we face. And that's not going to happen overnight. We need to start spending money and resources in a coordinated fashion in order to survive and still provide good golf courses to our customers to keep our jobs also in the end. So that's super important. And that also, I have 1 minute. Education of greenkeepers. It doesn't really matter if we have all this turfgrass research if the greenkeepers are not using it or are able to use it. We have a sort of a knowledge gap, but we also have an adaptation gap. There are actually a lot of knowledge out there that we are not using that could help us even more. So better education, better communication also. The federations need to start talking with their customers, the golfers. We also need to talk in between greenkeepers, say, okay, the future can look different, but we will still be there. Maybe it's not super green, but actually better. And then data collection. We need data collection. If we are going into a negotiation room in Brussels and they say you have to do with less, and we say, well, we're already using far less than agriculture. Show us the figures. We don't, it's a big black hole what we're using in Europe. Very few are collecting data. So start formalized data collection. That was my minute. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you very much. And you should know, Martin, that we appreciate very much your valuable and important support for turfgrass research and for STURF. So thank you very much.
No.
One short question for
one in each pocket.
Martin.
Achso, this one? Two? Ah, okay.
One for the camera, one for the room.
So why do we get less diseases with rolling?
Mm-hmm.
Short.
Because fungus diseases, like when it is wet on the top and dry down, and when we are rolling, we are doing exactly the opposite thing. It will be wet in the soil and dry out. On the out. Yes, this is right. This one is a series. Explanation because this is too wet. It's not too wet. It's exactly enough wet. And it's dry. It's not wet.
How to use this?
But you have not. You have a long debate.
So our next and final presentation in the session is by Wolfgang Prämaßing, and you will talk about effects of UVC radiation, Suståne slow release fertilizer on turfgrass diseases on golf greens.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Is it working? Ah, yeah, okay, good, thank you. Yeah, thank you for introduction. I'm Maria, and yeah, first of all, I have to say good afternoon, and want to say thank you to STURF and also to R&A to be invited here to this symposium, and also that we could be part of an IPM project in close cooperation with NIBIO. And so the title was introduced by Maria, so I have not to replicate it again. So yeah, in 2020 we started the project together with NIBIO, and the location was near Osnabrueck, near the University of Applied Sciences, Osnabrueck, where I'm working as a turfgrass specialist. And the golf course Osnabrueck had provided us the putting green, which is marked here in a picture above. And you see on the German card that is the northwestern part of Germany. Mild, humid climate in wintertime, sometimes yeah, very wet, sometimes a little bit snow. In summer it could be hot, but not for too long time. We could use a putting green, which was constructed like almost like a USGA green with a drainage layer and root zone layer. And the grass stands, it was, or we have for a long time grass stands now with bent grasses mixed with Poano annual blue grass. So, what was the objective of the study in this project? Okay, it was talked a lot about this today. To investigate alternative methods to control turfgrass diseases. And due to the challenges we heard about today with climate change and so on. And the other thing is also for us in Germany, as for us in Europe, to get more and more restrictions in using chemical fungicides, and maybe soon they are banned that we can use them, and yeah, we have to trust only to alternative methods. In this project, we could use UVC radiation. The golf course Osnabrueck had such a device and could provide that for us in this trial. And for us, the idea was to find a dosage of millijoule per square meter, what is coming down on the turf canopy, because this information is not given by the producers. They give only the information, go a working speed slow or faster or more often. And the other method was to use in the integrated pest management, how to use fertilizers, to use a slow release fertilizer. So we got the Suståne fertilizer 524 with an iron compound as a natural fertilizer, as an organic fertilizer, to use it with a focus on dollar spot. So, but okay, who is familiar with UVC radiation? Don't know, is it also a tool meanwhile in Scandinavia? I'm not sure. I think in England it's a tool. Meanwhile, also working in some other Middle Europe countries, it's working like in the Netherlands. I'm not sure how it is in Scandinavia. So Tanya said to me, we will do it in this project, so it's relatively new. What is UVC radiation? It's the shortest wavelength coming down from our sun, far away. UVB and UVA is the part of the spectrum that's coming down to Earth, and UVC is not coming down to Earth. It's blocked by the ozone layer. So it's good for us. Otherwise, we had some problems to live. But we use it in industry, in the food industry, and also in the medical technologies for surface disinfection, water and air hygiene. And due to the effect of, it has germicidal effects with a wavelength of 255 nanometers, and then it can damage the DNA, so let's say in organisms, in the cells, the nucleus. Ms. Berkelmann at the University of Geisenheim found, they got a project to use it in vineyards against fungal diseases and also bacterial diseases, and they had a big project, and so they found that it can work as a tool for crop protection. And beside that, they did also some trials, some first trials in turf. So what was our experimental plan? We used the SGL, from SGL the UVC unit 180, which was provided from a golf course for us, and made an experimental plan with 3 replications, and I show you soon in the next slide with dosages. And but an important thing was to measure with a UV Pro radiometer the dosage coming down to the turf canopy. Maybe you can see it here in the picture in the mid, that we are driving the unit over the radiometer, and then we can measure what dosage is coming down indeed to the turf canopy. So, and when we decided, after measuring how is the unit working, we decided to have an untreated control. We have a normal walking speed with about coming down 8 millijoule per square meters, and then we slowed the working speed down to very slow walking. So we reached about 40 millijoule per square meters, and when we doubled the running procedure with more times running, so we could get 80 millijoule per square meter. So that was our variance in the trial. In the other trial, it was a separate trial on the same putting green, but in another area. You can see on the picture the plots with a 4 replication design of the Suståne trail. And here we had the 3 variants. The control was the greenkeepers fertilizing program according to individual requirements. So he had no steadily or regularly intervals. Instead, the Suståne was set up also with the higher variant with 130 kilos nitrogen per year, per hectare, according to greenkeepers applications, and the lower one was with 70 kilos nitrogen per hectare per year. So our registrations were done with some visual ratings, turf quality, density, and we used the green seeker for the NDVI, normalized difference vegetation index. And the important thing was to measure or to rate the percentage of disease outbreak, and we calculated the area under disease pressure curve. So what are the results? I put out some results, not all results. That's too much for a short time. For example, I took here the result from 2020. In the summer 2020, we have some more pressure with dollar spot in Germany. I think all around Germany it was the same. And especially you can see in the curves, dollar spot went until to October in a mild autumn. And what we can show here with the UVC trial, that the highest dosage with the 80 millijoule per square meter had the lowest dollar spot infection, and the control and the low dosage had the highest through the whole trial period in this summer to autumn. This figure shows the summarized data from the summer 2020 and 2021 with dollar spot infection with the mean values here. And what we can see relatively clearly is that we have at least significant differences between the highest dosage from 80 millijoule compared to a control, and also to the lowest dosage from 8 millijoule. There are significant differences, and you see the trend that the higher the dosage, the lower was the dollar spot infection. To show it with some pictures, the picture on the right above is the highest dosage. You see there are sometimes some spots, but there are less spots compared to the other variants. The control showed here the most spots in summer or October 2020 here. What are the results on microdochium patch on snow molds in wintertime? In some areas in Germany we are also some microdochium patch. But it's not, the severity is mostly not so high as with dollar spot, but greenkeepers have to work with it. And the greenkeeper on this golf course said, so the SGL unit I rented specially for the winter time. And we can see the same, the higher the dosage, the lower the outbreak here of snow mold with microdochium patch. And also it shows also with area under disease pressure curve, the higher rates are with here and the control, and the lower one at the highest dosage with 80 millijoule per square meter. So, but it's still there. Results over 2 winter periods, so to say, showing the same trend. It's not statistically significant, but you see the trend from the control to the highest dosage in the right. The infection rate was quite lower compared to a control, with about 1% over 2 trial periods here calculated. So here also some pictures. What we watched was the variation between the infection on the different plots was a high variation, so you find sometimes in the highest dosage some more patches, in the control some less, and quite different, but at the trend was shown like the figure before. So what was the result with a natural fertilizer with focus only on dollar spot in the summertime? You see the same, and on this trial part, the same development of dollar spot from summer to autumn. And here we found that the 130 kilo N variant applied from spring to autumn every 2 weeks with a constantly nutrition caused a lower dollar spot infection than the control from the greenkeepers fertilization program or the 70 N program, so to say. And to put from both seasons together results with a statistical calculation, it showed that the 130 kilo N variant got the best result with a trend to lower infection with dollar spot compared to the control or to a lower nitrogen rate. Here also a view on the trial area, and control is here above, right one. You can almost assume there are a little bit less dollar spot than in the 2 other variants on the left. So one big in the natural fertilizer there was an iron compound, and iron is responsible also for chlorophyll activity, so it makes the plant a little bit more greener, higher green intensity, and that we could also show with NDVI measurements that the higher sustain rate with 130 kilos of N showed a significant higher or better green color and green activity, what means a better intensity of green or vitality of the plants. But the differences were very low, but statistically calculated insignificant. So let's summarize these trials. UVC radiation showed effective reduction of dollar spot in the summer 2020, from 4 to 2%, with the highest rate or dosage of around 80 millijoule per square meter. The same trend was observed also in the second year. UVC radiation with about at least of around 40 millijoule and more showed a trend to reduce also microdochium patch in winter time. The organic slow release fertilizer reduced dollar spot in the summer 2020, and the same was also observed in the second year. And the higher rate compared to the lower rate showed the better result, and also for the NDVI we could measure better values for the vitality of the plants. But both alternative methods showed a trend to better turf quality during the application periods. It's not shown here, but that could be observed very good, and came to some conclusions for practical thinking, or what can we do in practice. If someone is running UVC radiation, efficient dollar spot suppression can be achieved at least with a radiation dosage from about 40 millijoule. That was also shown in a recent finished master thesis we had for 2 or 3 weeks ago, the colloquium to that, and he did some laboratory tests with different fungi, and he said his result was also at least around 40 millijoule. We need to suppress the fungi. We cannot kill him, but we can suppress his spreading. Microdochium patch control was not significantly different, but with a dosage of around 40 millijoule, a trend for the disease suppression was also observed, but none of the UVC treatments were able to suppress disease outbreak up to 100%. But UVC can be a helpful tool as a control for disease control. The organic fertilizer, I would say a sustainable and constantly use of slow release fertilizer with an amount of customized to local conditions can lower dollar spot severity. I have to say local conditions were this. On another location it can be some other numbers. So what does it mean in practice? Both methods can be helpful tools to control turf diseases, but not eradicate them. Probably the use of fungicides can be reduced dependent on local situation and disease pressure, and I think what is to be discuss tolerance levels. What can we tolerate of disease infestation dependent on quality standard, weather forecast, disease spreader prediction models, and we hear today about data collection is one of the basis to find that out. Thank you.
Thank you. One short question for Wolfgang. Yes.
Do you think it's the source in that product that is organic, or is it just the fact that it's nitrogen? What do you think?
From the slow release fertilizer, I think the slow release is the opportunity to have no pushed growth of the grass. So it's a slowly provided nutrition for the plant. And what the literature and scientific literature has told is that we need nitrogen fertilization against dollar spot, not too much, but not too less. And so on this location, it worked with around 130 kilograms N per year, spread over 2 weeks from spring to autumn. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.